First of all, I want to appreciate you for coming for this particular function. This is a very important function within our calendar. And I remember when I joined the ministry last year, this was the first important function that I presided over in the same month last year. So I'm happy to be here with you once again. Mr. Patrick Kilemi, Principal Secretary, State Department for Cooperatives, Mheshimiwa Jack Ranguma, Chairman of the Board, and board members, all of them who are here, the David Sandagi, the acting CEO of SASRA. I want to appreciate the presence of the Deputy CJ. She's here in her capacity as Chair of Sharia Sacco, and members of the Joint Financial Sector Regulators Forum, the distinguished corporate leaders, invited guests, members of the press who are here, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by saying that the release of the Sacco Supervision Annual Report 2024 today, it marks another important milestone in the Kenya cooperative movement. Firstly, the release of this report comes at a time when the cooperative movement is marking the 2025 United Nations International Year of Cooperatives, which provides the action plan and deliverables during the celebrations and beyond. Secondly, the release of this report marks 10 years post the transition period of June 2014, when the full implementation of prudential regulation of SACCOs in Kenya commenced. Consequently, this is an occasion to critically take stock of the performance, operations, and activities of the SACCO industry in Kenya, not just over the last 1 year, but over the last 10 years. It is also an opportune time to reflect on the future outlook of the SACCO sector in the short, medium term, and taking into account national and international micro-policy development. There's no doubt that the regulated SACCO have made notable gains over the decade, and this is commendable. For instance, during this period, the number of members in regulated SACCOs grew to 7.4 million people in 2024 December, from just about 3.1 million in 2014, 10 years. The total assets grew to 1.1 trillion in December 2024 from 301.1 billion in 2014. And by end of August 2025, the total assets increased to 1.113 trillion. The total deposits grew to 749.43 billion in 2024 from just about 205.97 billion in 2014, and in August 2025, it had grown to 806.37 billion. It is also laudable to note from the report that the regulated SACCOs have embraced the use of ICT in their financial service delivery. This has widened the reach for financial services and products offered by SACCOs in Kenya, thereby deepening financial inclusion in the country. It is also noted from the report that regulated SACCOs are shunning away from the use of traditional expensive brick and mortar branches to the more affordable, innovative, and technologically driven SACCO agencies to deliver financial services and products to their membership. In particular, I take keen note that there were 4,247 SACCO agents spread out across the country in 2024, and with transactions worth over 31.65 billion for and on behalf of regulated SACCOs. Ladies and gentlemen, let me emphasize the fact that the usage of ICT in the provision of financial services is the way to go in current age and times. ICT and electronically enabled financial services offers customers ease and convenience of doing business, including access and usage. It also reduces costs and expenses associated with physically offered financial services, while at the same time being attractive to the younger generations, joining or intending to join SACCOs. Lastly, it repositions SACCOs' existing comparative advantages to ward off competition from other financial institutions such as commercial banks and microfinance institutions and digital credit providers. Consequently, the ministry will continue to support SACCOs to adopt, deepen, and embrace the usage of safe and secure ICT in their financial products and services offering. This is also aligned to the national government digital economy vision as enshrined in the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. As we do this, however, SACCOs and the entire industry players must continue to be wary of the cyber threats which lags behind the usage of ICT and fintech in provision of financial services and products. On this note, I'm happy to report that the National Computer and Cybercrimes Coordinating Committee, chaired by the Principal Secretary Interior, has designated SASRA as the SACCO Subsector Cyber Security Operations Center under the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act made thereunder. This has substantially decreased the cybersecurity instances within the SACCO over the last 18 months, and I do urge all SACCOs and SASRA to maintain this vigilance. Ladies and gentlemen, despite these many milestones recorded in the SACCO industry, there is still a lot more to be addressed in order to fully secure the SACCO sector. To start with, it is important to observe that this report relates only to 355 regulated SACCOs consisting of 177 deposit-taking SACCOs and 178 POSA-only SACCOs within deposits above 1 million Kenya shillings, 100 million Kenya shillings. In other words, there are many other BOSA, only Sacco, whose deposits are below Kenya shillings 100 million threshold, which are not under the prudential supervision of SASRA. My ministry is therefore looking into modalities of bringing this segment of SACCOs under SASRA. Of course, I have been made aware that a majority of these SACCOs have very small balance sheets. This implies that they cannot generate sufficient resources or revenue required to comply with the prescribed prudential regulation standards. Ability to deploy ICT in their operations, meet members' needs, expand operations, among others. I'm also aware that some of these SACCOs do not have the technical know-how to assure compliance with prudential regulatory parameters. It is for this very reason, among others, that I appointed the committee of experts, and I'm happy the chair is here, Malin, on 21st May 2025 to review the Sacco Society Act and the regulations, and also to explore ways and means of coming up with a shared technological services platform for these small SACCOs. Such a platform will provide a solution to the very many small and medium-sized SACCOs across the country to come under the purview of prudential regulation by enjoying the synergies associated with the economies of scale of sharing common services. Indeed, it is worthwhile to note that even among the 355 regulated SACCOs, a total of 216 of them have relatively small balance sheets of less than 1 billion in assets totaling to 79.6 billion, which is only 7.4% of the total assets. Such a small balance sheets undermine their competitiveness in the credit business, which today heavily runs on very robust ICT and technological platform, but which these SACCOs can hardly afford. Ladies and gentlemen, as I've said, a shared technological services platform will come in handy in assisting these small-sized SACCOs meet regulatory burdens and withstand competition in the financial services space. However, we must be live to the reality that there seems to be very many small BOSA-only SACCO spread across the country, but which are inactive and exist just on paper. The few active ones are neither stable nor financially viable because they serve just a few members, while with limited impact and financial inclusion. Consequently, as time has come for the SACCO sector to explore market-driven solutions of consultation and mergers of these very many small BOSA, only SACCOs, this is the only way to ensure their financial viability and stability. In this regard, I urge officials of the SACCOs operating within the same or similar traditional economic and social common bonds to immediately start conversation relating to mergers as a solution to their survival. To this end, I'm happy to report that SASRA's guidance, one such a small size regulated SACCO in Kirinyaga County recently merged with a larger, more stable, and a dominant regulated Sacco. As a result, the members of the smaller Sacco are now able to be effectively and efficiently served through appropriate and affordable financial services and products. This is the way to go in order to have prosperous Sacco sector. The ministry shall issue guidelines to facilitate the amalgamation of cooperative societies. At the ministry level, we have issued a temporary moratorium on the registration of new Saccos, and not all cooperatives, in order to take stock of the existing registered Saccos and see where they are, as well as assess their viability. And we have the end of this month for them to ensure that they comply on filing of their returns with the Commissioner of Cooperatives. After that, we shall have the month of October to review all of them to see which one can continue to exist and which ones can merge and which ones can be liquidated. Those which are only registered by the name but are not active will be deregistered and liquidated by the Commissioner for Cooperatives as required by the law. Those which are active and viable will be required to be supervised by SASRA. Otherwise, they shall equally be deregistered and liquidated. Let me make it clear that Saccos are just one of the many typologies of cooperatives in Kenya. And I've seen the report being released today as clearly unpacked this in page 24 for purposes of the readers. And so the moratorium on registration relates to Saccos only because of their financial mediation, business involving collecting deposits from the public and intermediating the same on loans which calls for government intervention to protect the said deposits. It is therefore in the same breath that the committee of experts is expected to also revisit the current threshold for registration of Saccos, which today is capped at just 10 people. Is this sustainable? On the same note, I do know that there are several transport cooperatives which are currently registered or operating as Matatu or PSV Saccos. These entities are not Saccos because they are not engaged in mobilization of deposits and or intermediating the deposit as credit. They are simply an association of people coming together to operate transport business or manage routes as required by the National Transport Safety Authority, NTCA. Consequently, the continued usage of the name Sacco by these entities brings a lot of confusion, and we must take immediate steps to rectify the situation. It also causes confusion among members of the public and may result in reputation damage to Saccos as regulated and credible financial institutions. In view of the foregoing, and to bring sanity in the Sacco industry, the ministry is going to transform all existing Matatu or PSB Saccos which are not engaged in savings and credit business into transport cooperatives or transcorps. Those which are genuinely engaged in savings and credit business will, however, be required to apply to be regulated by SASRA or else face registration. As a ministry, we commit to do what is possible within the prevailing legal framework to protect the deposits of members of the public held in regulated Saccos. but we equally call upon the public to cease and desist from undertaking or transacting Sacco businesses with unregulated or pyramid-style entities purporting to be Saccos when they are not. In this regard, I'm aware that SASRA has on a continuous annual basis been publishing the list of regulated Saccos in the country's boards, in the Kenya Gazette and the national newspapers as required by law, and has also made the same on the website. Ladies and gentlemen, governance in Saccos is still a matter of grave concern for the government. It is important to emphasize that Saccos can only thrive in an environment where good governance practices are fully engaged and practiced. I do know that both SASRA and the Commissioner for Corporates have issued various circulars and guidance notes on good governance practices for regulated Saccos, which are aligned to and tailor-made for Saccos as cooperative enterprises. Whereas the many Saccos have embraced these circulars and guidance notes, others have not, with devastating consequences. For example, one, the annual general meetings. Whereas this is the supreme organ of all Saccos where critical decisions are made, there are some Saccos with tens and hundreds of thousands of members. It is this regard that the ministry directed Saccos with over 5,000 members to adopt the delicate system to ensure that the general meetings are forum for effective decision-making. Number two, payment of dividends. I have noted with concern that there are Saccos that have been engaged in unhealthy financial competition in payment of dividends or shared capital and interest in deposits. Saccos are for service entities, and the key service offered are provision of savings and credits. They are not for profit and should therefore not offer unsustainable dividends and interest. This trend has seen some Saccos engage in unsafe and unsound financial practices, such as cooking the books to inflate revenues, borrowing to pay dividends, failing to retain statutory reserves, among others. It is this regard I have already directed the Commissioner and SASRA to ensure that no Sacco pays dividend or interest unless they have made sufficient surplus, made the capital adequacy requirements, and made provision for statutory reserves. No Sacco shall be allowed to borrow for external sources to pay dividends, and henceforth, any Sacco intending to procure an external loan must obtain written approval from the Commissioner of Cooperatives, subject to compliance with the prescribed ratios. Board of Directors and Management. Number three, whereas we accept that democracy is part and parcel of the cooperative principles, there is need to a serious look into the caliber of persons being elected the boards of Saccos, sometimes with no reference to their fitness and propriety. The need for serious and perhaps mandatory continuous professional development of key officers of Saccos must also be revisited and implemented. Number four, auditing. Both internal and external auditing are critical aspects which ought to support good governance practices. As an auditor of many years, these two functions are usually considered to be the eyes of the board and members. However, recent events which have seen the loss of funds in some Saccos point towards what can be termed as cooking books by the preparers of the financial reports and statements, while the internal and external auditors' function look the other way. In this regard, I'm directing the Commissioner and SASRA to rein in on both internal and external auditors who fail to secure correct and accurate financial reporting by regulated SACCOs. As an entry point, the Commissioner and SASRA must immediately, one, ensure that all financial reports and statements are countersigned by the chief executive officers and finance officers who prepare them, in addition to the board of directors. This will hold both management and the board of directors responsible for disclosure in the statement. Number two, ensure that internal auditors of SACCOs render their opinions on the financial statements and reports prior to such a financial statement being subjected to the external auditors. Number three, institute appropriate actions against external auditors who internally failed to render external auditing services in accordance with the Sacco Societies Act and regulation, including a referral of such external auditors to ISPAC for additional sanction. Ladies and gentlemen, since my appointment to this ministry last year, I've had an opportunity to benchmark with other countries with a mature Sacco financial ecosystem, such as Ireland and United Kingdom. My experience from this country is that the financial, functional, robust and stable financial ecosystem consists of the following ingredients. The first one is prudential regulatory framework. The second one is shared services platform driven by the industry and market players. The third one is the central liquidity facility and or stabilization facilities. And number four, a functional deposit guarantee scheme. In Kenya today, we only have one part of the ecosystem, namely the prudential regulatory framework. The other three are missing. Interestingly, the banking sector, which is likely regulated in the same manner as SACCOs, have all the four. It is therefore the turn of SACCOs to pool all their resources to ensure that these three key components are also realized. Fortunately, the committee of experts are already on course to review this, and I urge all of us to provide them with maximum support. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by observing that the non-remittance menace is still with us, despite several concerted efforts to deal with it. In particular, I do note that for the period ended December 2024, about 85 regulated SACCOs were owed a total of 3.49 billion, up from 2.59 billion in 2023, affecting a total of 55,602 members. This has seriously undermined the financial stability of these affected SACCOs, resulting in their inability to meet the obligation of members. It also impairs the capacity of the affected members to access financial services and products from their respective SACCOs. The most affected SACCOs are those that draw membership from county governments and county assemblies, which are over 1.69 billion, and public universities and tertiary colleges, which owe over 762 million Kenya shillings. It is our anticipation that the Cooperative Bill 2024 will be fast-tracked in order to provide long-term solution to the affected SACCOs. In the meantime, I do urge SACCOs, especially the post-taking SACCOs, to adopt and implement administrative circular issued by SASRA in 2019 on recoveries of members' deduction through forcer channels rather than reliance on deduction by employers' institutions. With those many remarks, let me now declare the Sacco Supervision Annual Report 2024 officially released to the public. Let me also invite the policymakers, think tanks, and even the media to critically read the report and utilize the data provided as tools for evidence-based policy dialogue and discourse. To the members of the SACCOs and public, the report provides you with a one-stop shop for analyzing the performance of your respective SACCOs and gives you the sufficient information to hold your elected representative in the SACCOs accountable. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Waziri.
I wanted to add something so you can be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, you remember very well when I came in, we had the problem of Cusco. We are trying to make sure that Cusco is revived. We had the problem of Metropolitan. We have other problems that I don't want to mention here. And this is because that we have a very weak regulatory systems in this country compared to what I have seen outside there. Please remember, this is members' money, members' resources. The other day, as I mentioned, a young man came to my office. He had saved 78,000 in one of the SACCOs. The fellow was untrained teacher, had been employed as an untrained teacher. Then he lost his employment. So he has been chasing for his refund for the last 3 years. And the refund has not been given to him. He says he has a sick mother, he has school fees to pay, but he cannot get his deposits or his refund. He has no loan at all. So when he came to my office, he said, Bwana Waziri, you must pay me this money. Otherwise, I'm going to jump through the window and just kill myself. And I said, my friend, let me remind you, you never brought the money in this office. If you brought this money in this office or anybody in this office, I will be very happy to refund you. Now, we don't want to go there, ladies and gentlemen, because of misgovernance, governance that we have in the various SACCOs. We need a very strong SACCO industry which is self-regulating. I'm happy that now the chairman of SASRA says that they have enough funds, which means that their supervision responsibility will now be enhanced. We are thinking of having everybody to be supervised because we feel a shilling in a small SACCO is equal to a shilling in a big SACCO. So supervision across boards. We want also, because based on the experience that I have had in the office for the last 1 year to bring in even the housing Saccos, investment Saccos, also areas that we feel has been mismanaged. We have also noted that now the peak weeks have innovated Saccos. They are saving in Saccos and influencing members of the Saccos to lend them a lot of money beyond what is required from their own deposits. I want to take this opportunity to warn those Saccos that be careful of these peak weeks. Otherwise, we don't want to go the same way we went because banks have strict requirements for you to access credit, while some Saccos, because of friendship, and you can imagine a Sacco giving 100 million Kenya shillings without any security to a big man. Then how? If the big man doesn't, if he drops dead, and he doesn't pay, how? Then we shall go the metropolitan way and others. We have noted others which are struggling. I think I've shared this with the CC in charge of cooperatives in this county, that we need to be very careful. Our role as government is to safeguard the interests of small lenders. Yeah? That is very, very important. I'm told here that I want to remind the delegates here, the leaders, cooperative leaders here, we are having a ministerial conference October, I think from October 8th, ministerial conference under the Cooperative Alliance. I don't know if Bwana Malondo is here. He's not here. He's the one who is organized this. It is there from 8th and 9th. The venue will be advised. This is going to be a very important conference which will bring together the ministers in charge of cooperatives in Africa, and also the key stakeholders within that industry from the entire Africa. So you will be appropriately advised where it will be, and we require you to support that. They have chosen Kenya because Kenya is one of the important countries that has really developed and advanced in the Sacco movement. Otherwise, thank you very much for coming, and we appreciate your support, and we hope you will continue supporting this movement.